podcast. And today, Chrissy Bray Cotton has joined me. And I am going to cut over to Chrissy and let her tell you a little bit about herself. Go ahead, Chrissy. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Karen. I'm so honored. My name is Chrissy Bray Cotton. I'm a 55-year-old post-op trans female living in Owensboro, Kentucky. Happily married. I'm also a ministry intern at Unity Fellowship here in Owensboro and the vice president of Owensboro Blue Bridge Pride. Just newly became vice president a couple months back, but I'm trying my best to be an advocate in our area and encourage people the best way I can and let everyone experience what trans joy feels like.
Uh-huh. So what's trans joy to you?
Oh, I try my very best to share joy with everyone I meet. No shame. It's deeply personal. It's spiritual. I'm a loud, proud transgender woman serving in ministry. I believe that joy is the clearest way I can show the love of God to the world. Mm-hmm. Joy is not just happiness. It's survival. It's healing. It's proof that love is stronger than fear. So I think your joy can be your testimony. Oh. I really do. So I'm not going to wipe the smile off my face no matter what they say to me.
Absolutely. That is absolutely beautiful. So that makes me a day. So you are, I think this is probably part that we've got to go over because I don't think we had it. I think that we missed it. So as a trans female, for people who are you were born biologically a male.
Yes, I was born in 1971, biologically male. I knew by the time I was 3 or 4 years old that this wasn't right. I had no interest in boy things. My mom would buy me Tonka trucks, and she bought me this great big knobby Bronco. I remember it so well. She had no idea that it was the right size for Barbie, but it was. So that was nothing but a glorified Barbie car. It really was for years. I never had interest in boy things. I knew what I wanted to be. I wanted to be Shirley Temple. This was the early 1970s, and that's what I wanted to be. So I'll share pictures with you so you can put them on here, Karen.
Yeah.
I had curly hair and long blondish. I mean, that's what I wanted. I felt the only time I felt authentically myself was when I was about 3 or 4 years old, mm-hmm. and then skip forward till I was about 46 when I started my transition.
So like 3 or 4 years old, you started kind of conforming to the social norms that were expected of you, would you say?
Well, maybe. I had a brother 8 years older than me that would pick at me, and he would be like, you can't do that, you can't do that. And usually I didn't listen.
Yeah.
But I would say it was a little past that, probably around the time I started school, so around 6 or 7. I probably tried. What I did was try to emulate him, actually. He was in high school by that point, so I tried to dress like him. And I tried to do my hair like him, but we didn't look anything alike. And it broke my mom's heart to cut off all my curls, but I did it, So, but it never felt right. Being that person, I'll say it, being Scott was all fake to me. Mm-hmm. I was always this person on the inside. My mom would have company. I would sit there at the table with them drinking coffee as a little kid and just talking about girl stuff. And I mean, I was just content with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Deep within yourself. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was always Chrissy. I know I was.
And then you got married and
I got married in 1995. I was 24 years old. We were married for 22 years.
Wow.
I married my best friend. This is the ironic part of the story that, I think I told you about in the letter about your book. She was my best friend for years, 12 years. She was the first person that I ever said out loud that I wanted to undergo gender affirming surgery, or at the time it was they called it something else.
Yeah.
She was the first person I ever told. We had never had any interest in each other. Within 6 months, we had started dating. She knew the truth about me, though. It was never a secret, So, but we were married for 22 years, and then I was widowed. Went through a terrible depression, terrible. And after that, I made an attempt on my life twice, and then I came out of it. And it was not something that I had been thinking about. It was something I just knew. It was like in my gut. I have to transition. I have to do this. This is the only thing I have to hold on to right now. My kids aren't talking to me. My wife died. Um, it was the one thing I had, and nothing. I couldn't stop crying most of the time until I really started expressing myself. And I don't know. I remember even as a teenager, I didn't ever want to be that boy. I wanted to be Molly Ringwald.
Hmm.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's
And
what you identified with, though.
exactly,
That's who
exactly.
you were.
So I
So,
ended up starting, seeing a therapist very regularly, up to 4 times a week. Um, she would come to me.
uh-huh.
And so I had someone holding my hand through the very, very beginning of my transition. And it was beautiful.
Hmm.
It was beautiful. She come over, well, Chrissy, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to make a feminist out of you. I'm going to do this and that. She was like a big sister.
Hmm.
She wasn't old to be my mom, but she was like a big sister. And she even wrote a paper on me at one point talking about, because I was her first trans patient, I
Uh-huh.
think. She said that she was comparing my early transition to puberty.
Oh,
She said, "You're 46 years old." She said, "But your skirts are a little bit too short and you got a little bit too much makeup on." She said, "You're just like a teenage girl, and I've watched you grow, but you don't, it doesn't take as long. They're just
yeah.
short little things." And so she's blown away today. She's like, "I can't believe how modest you are now, and you're so this and you're so proper." I'm not either proper, but I try.
Yeah.
So she did compare it to that. She was amazing. She was absolutely amazing. She ended up retiring, and she came out of retirement to write the W path letters for me to have my bottom surgery.
Oh, wow. That
Yeah.
is phenomenal. And I'm glad I'm kind of glad since this is messed up and we can do this. When somebody decides that this is who I am, what is there's a process. I mean, you just don't go find a doctor and go, "Hey, this is what I want to do." I mean, there's a whole process. Is that correct?
Well, I know that stuff changes a lot. I know when I transitioned, you had to have W path letters. You had to be seen by two mental health professionals
Mm-hmm.
and assessed for each surgery. So when I did my top surgery, I had to see two professionals. Then when I did my bottom surgery, I had to do two. Um, there are rules and regulations at that time, at least. I had to be on hormones for at least a year or on my estrogen. I had to have been living totally as female or my authentic self for at least a year before they'd even talk to me about it. And then for me, because estrogen put 100 pounds on me, I had to lose weight. There are lots of things you have to do. It's a lot.
I knew there was, and that's why when people are like, they make it sound like the doctors are at their homes doing these surgeries on
Right,
the kitchen table, and like I could just drive up and walk out being a guy later.
right. That's crazy. It's nothing at all like that. I know
Yeah,
someone in the current administration was saying that there were people giving these surgeries to children without their parents' approval.
yeah.
I don't. That's not possible. I
Well,
just
that was the head chief, and I saw him on the news say it, or not the news, but on the state of address that he did, and he said, imagine sending your little girl to school and she comes home a boy, and I'm like, that's not what's going on.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
But no, it's a long process, and there's so much to do. But anybody who wanted to experience that, anybody who wants to transition, I would be so thrilled to encourage you to do this. Celebrate every step.
Yep.
I
Yep.
remember every single step. My first photo ID where I looked like my authentic self. It even had my old dead name on it, but that ID picture, that was wonderful. And then the name change. Every single step is to be celebrated,
Yes.
and that's beautiful. That's absolutely wonderful. Now, I've had all my documents changed. I've done everything I'm supposed to do, and I'm so used to celebrating everything. It's not just happiness; it's survival, it's healing, it's proof that love is stronger than fear. So I think your joy can be your testimony. I
No,
really do. So I'm
that
not
is
going to wipe the smile off my face no matter what they say to me.
absolutely, that is absolutely beautiful. So that makes me a day. So you are, I think this is probably part that we've got to go over because I don't think we had it. I think that we missed it. So as a trans female, for people who are you were born biologically a male.
Yes, I was born in 1971, biologically male. I knew by the time I was 3 or 4 years old that this wasn't right. I had no interest in boy things. My mom would buy me Tonka trucks, and she bought me this great big knobby Bronco. I remember it so well. She had no idea that it was the right size for Barbie, but it was. So that was nothing but a glorified Barbie car. It really was for years. I never had interest in boy things. I knew what I wanted to be. I wanted to be Shirley Temple. This was the early 1970s, and that's what I wanted to be. So I'll share pictures with you so you can put them on here, Karen.
Yeah.
I had curly hair and long blondish. I mean, that's what I wanted. I felt the only time I felt authentically myself was when I was about 3 or 4 years old, and then skip forward till I was about 46 when I started my transition.
So like 3 or 4 years old, you started kind of conforming to the social norms that were expected of you, would you say?
Well, maybe. I had a brother 8 years older than me that would pick at me, and he would be like, you can't do that, you can't do that. And usually I didn't listen.
Yeah.
But I would say it was a little past that, probably around the time I started school, so around 6 or 7. I probably tried. What I did was try to emulate him, actually. He was in high school by that point, so I tried to dress like him, and I tried to do my hair like him, but we didn't look anything alike. And it broke my mom's heart to cut off all my curls, but I did it, So, but it never felt right. Being that person, I'll say it, being Scott was all fake to me. I was always this person on the inside. I would sit and my mom would have company. I would sit there at the table with them drinking coffee as a little kid and just talking about girl stuff. And I mean, I was just content with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Deep within yourself. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was always Chrissy. I know I was.
And then you got married and
I got married in 1995. I was 24 years old. We were married for 22 years.
Wow. I
married my best friend. This is the ironic part of the story that I think I told you about in the letter about your book. She was my best friend for years, 12 years. She was the first person that I ever said out loud that I wanted to undergo gender affirming surgery, or at the time it was they called it something else.
Yeah.
She was the first person I ever told. We had never had any interest in each other. Within 6 months, we had started dating. She knew the truth about me, though. It was never a secret, So, but we were married for 22 years, and then I was widowed. Went through a terrible depression, terrible. And after that, I made an attempt on my life twice, and then I came out of it. And it was not something that I had been thinking about. It was something I just knew. It was like in my gut. I have to transition. I have to do this. This is the only thing I have to hold on to right now. My kids aren't talking to me. My wife died. It was the one thing I had, and I couldn't stop crying most of the time until I really started expressing myself. And I don't know. I remember even as a teenager, I didn't ever want to be that boy. I wanted to be Molly Ringwald. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's what you identified with, though.
Exactly.
That's who you were.
So I ended up starting, seeing a therapist very regularly, up to 4 times a week. She would come to me. And so I had someone holding my hand through the very, very beginning of my transition, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. She come over, well, Chrissy, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to make a feminist out of you. I'm going to do this and that. She was like a big sister. She wasn't old to be my mom, but she was like a big sister. She even wrote a paper on me at one point talking about because I was her first trans patient. I think she said that she was comparing my early transition to puberty. She said, you're 46 years old. She said, but your skirts are a little bit too short and you got a little bit too much makeup on. She said, you're just like a teenage girl, and I've watched you grow, but you don't, it doesn't take as long. They're just short little things. And so she's blown away today. She's like, I can't believe how modest you are now, and you're so this and you're so proper. I'm not either proper, but I try. Yeah. So she did compare it to that. She was amazing. She was absolutely amazing. She ended up retiring, and she came out of retirement to write the WPATH letters for me to have my bottom surgery.
Oh, wow. That is phenomenal. And I'm glad I'm kind of glad this is messed up and we can do this. When somebody decides that this is who I am, what is there's a process. I mean, you just don't go find a doctor and go, hey, this is what I want to do. I mean, there's a whole process. Is that correct?
Well, I know that stuff changes a lot. I know when I transitioned, you had to have WPATH letters. You had to be seen by 2 mental health professionals and assessed for each surgery. So when I did my top surgery, I had to see 2 professionals. Then when I did my bottom surgery, I had to do 2. There are rules and regulations at that time, at least. I had to be on hormones for at least a year or on my estrogen. I had to have been living totally as female or my authentic self for at least a year before they'd even talk to me about it. And then for me, because estrogen put 100 pounds on me, I had to lose weight. There are lots of things you have to do. It's a lot.
I knew there was, and that's why when people are like, they make it sound like the doctors are at their homes doing these surgeries,
right?
On the kitchen table, and I could just drive up and walk out being a guy later,
Right. That's crazy. It's nothing at all like that. I know someone in the current administration was saying that there were people giving these surgeries to children without their parents' approval.
Yeah.
I don't. That's not possible.
Well, that was the head chief, and I saw him on the news say it, or not the news, but on the state of address that he did, and he said, imagine sending your little girl to school and she comes home a boy, and I'm like, that's not what's going on.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
But no, it's a long process, and there's so much to do. But anybody who wanted to experience that, anybody who wants to transition, I would be so thrilled to encourage you to do this. Celebrate every step.
Yep.
I remember every single step. My first photo ID where I looked like my authentic self. It even had my old dead name on it, but that ID picture, that was wonderful. And then the name change. Every single step is to be celebrated.
Yes.
And that's beautiful. That's absolutely wonderful. Now, I've had all my documents changed. I've done everything I'm supposed to do. And I'm so used to celebrating everything. I feel like I don't have anything to do anymore.
To celebrate being alive and your joy every day.
Every day. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And so my whole goal is to try to be an inspiration for someone else.
Good for you.
I want everyone to feel that same joy. There was last year in Frankfurt, they had a trans joy party at the Capitol.
Oh, nice.
And we were late, so I didn't get to attend everything. I got to see part of it. It was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. I hope they do that again this year. I would even like to see Owensboro do something like a trans joy party.
Yeah.
Now that I'm part of Pride, maybe that's something we can make that happen.
Yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice. So
that definitely would be, because so many, and I've already mentioned it once, you can edit it. So many of our community isolate, because they're scared. I want that joy to be there.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. And what I find with I talked to a 21-year-old, I'm talking to a 60-plus-year-old, and the 60-plus-year-old said, I'm a very private person. I'm not going to have this conversation. I was like, okay, I'm fine with that. That's okay. But then and I was like, and I'm thinking to myself, this is the whole problem. But when they couldn't come out safely. Right. And that's the context, the older gay people or the LGBTQ plus, it's still not completely safe, but it's a lot safer than it was in the 70s and the 80s. Oh yeah. I remember in a city like Owensboro in the 80s, when I came out in 1989, I guess you would say I was loud and proud then too, but before my transition, I would regularly get threats, different things. And so it was very scary. It was very scary then. It really was. I know we talked a little bit about, like the hangout spots and stuff for the LGBTQ communities, and they always have some sort of derogatory name. Yeah. But there was never a shortage of guys coming sniffing around or getting up in the middle of things. It was a lot. Yeah.
I'm glad that we've got at least gotten past that, and you being out is a lot easier than it was. A whole
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
I want all the young people to remember, that your elders are the ones that got us there. Don't ever forget that. If we weren't here to
Exactly.
deal with that, then it wouldn't be so easy for you today. So just remember that and honor us.
Yep. Yep. Just like the women's rights, all the people that came before to make that happen.
Exactly.
I had a great aunt that got arrested 3 times for wearing pants in Mississippi.
Really?
Yep. Yep.
Fascinating.
She walked out and the sheriff stopped her, said, "I'm going to arrest you." And so the next day she went out and he arrested her, and she just continued to wear pants. And finally he got tired of arresting her, apparently.
Well, do you know what era that was in?
Oh, about the 1910s, 1920s.
Oh, it was really early then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe because she ended up, it was my uncle was born and my dad was born during the Depression.
Uh-huh.
And the father walked out. So she moved in with her sister to help raise him.
Okay.
And then when they would both lose jobs, they would have to take Uncle Harvey to the orphanage and leave, and then get jobs, get a home, and then get him back. And they were in and out all the time. But her name was Aunt Georgie. I don't know if she ever married. I never met. She was long gone before I came around.
Right.
But she had been arrested in Mississippi and Tennessee for wearing pants.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful. That's really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just and just like, you look at Harvey Milk and all of these stories and the people at Stonewall. Yeah. And so, and apparently they took the pride flag down today there.
I heard about that.
I did too. And I just, you see all of these things, and it's like we still have to be out there talking about it, and we need the allies talking about this.
You can't erase us, period.
No.
You're going anywhere.
And it's not like, oh, they're everywhere. I've heard people, okay, so that, my heterosexual friends are like, they're everywhere, or I'm not going to participate in someone's mental illness. And, you and I had that conversation the other day. We both worked in healthcare. We both worked in a memory care unit.
Yep.
And the comment, the number one thing they tell us is, if they say that they're Napoleon that day.
Exactly.
So if you treat, so when I hear lawmakers going, well, we're not going to participate in somebody's mental illness, and I'm like, you're full of crap. Because the number one thing they tell us is you don't want to upset them. That's their reality. So that to me tells me that they don't even believe that people are mentally ill.
No, they don't.
No.
They don't. That's just a quick thing to fall back on. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of the status quo, like a little script that they're going to come off of.
Exactly.
And stuff.
Exactly.
So yeah, so there's a lot more we need to do. And I keep saying this over and over through this whole podcast. I say it in all my podcasts. We just need to be having these conversations.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely, definitely.
Yeah.
It's important. And I mean, if you have the ability to talk about these things, people do it.
Yes.
Do it. I understand not everybody can, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But if you have the ability and the willingness, anytime you can, put yourself out there.
Yes.
I think that is a powerful thing to do.
I agree. And this is the only way. And just like I said before, 2/3 of Americans support LGBTQ+. That's the majority of the country.
Yes, it is.
But they're not speaking up enough.
No. Well, you know what? I just posted something today that I'd like to pull up here. Let me pull this really quick. You're right. They're not saying enough. And come on. I'm going to quote a famous person here. It may well be that we will have to repent in this generation, not merely the vitriolic words and the violent actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence and indifference of the good people who sit around and say, wait on time. Dr. Martin Luther King, March 31st, 1968.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Please speak up. Please help. We need you. We absolutely do.
Yes. So, and I tell you what, when I go out and talk to parents, last year I got to talk to like 4 or 5 parent groups, and I was like in heaven. And I told them, I said, get these little lapel pins. They're just like this big, and they're the A.
Uh-huh.
And they're the rainbow A. And my book, that's on my book. That's my book cover. If you open it up, it's the ally flag.
Okay.
And so I said, I put them on my t-shirts and I forget I have them. You know, they're on everything. And I'll go in and get waited on, and a kid will go, I go, everything's great. Thank you so much. I'm paying my bill. And they'll go, thank you. I go, well, you're welcome. You have a good day. Thank you. And they go, no, thank you. And it took me a minute to catch on what they were doing. I was like, they see an ally.
Right.
That's what that's about. And I tell parents all the time, wear the free mom hug shirts. Go out. You will be shocked at the people that will walk up and ask for a hug. I mean,
It is shocking.
It is. It
And
is.
it's sad that anyone has to feel like they don't have enough hugs. I mean, it's heartbreaking that someone gets so excited, but I'm always there for anyone who wants a hug.
Yeah, me too. And 2019, I went to Evansville Pride, just like I had my free mom hug shirt on. I had not written a book yet. I'm still, and had my ally pin on, and I was going to go, and I walked around and hit a couple food trucks. And then I was like, well, I'll go to Target and get what I need, So I run over there, and this young lady comes up and she says, I tell her what I'm looking for, and she walks over with me. And she's looking, she goes, here it is. And she hands it to me. I said, oh, great. And then she looks at me, she goes, I like your t-shirt. I go, you're welcome. She goes, did you come from Pride? And I said, yes, are you going? She goes, yes. I said, well, just be careful. Don't go down there by yourself. Make sure you go with plenty of people. And then she's probably about 19, 20-ish is my guess.
Right.
And she goes, can I have a hug? And I go, yeah. So I'm hugging her, and I've got tears going down my face. She's got tears going down her face. And she said, I needed that. Well, over the years, I share that story, but I also realized that she probably came out to me before she came out to her own family. Probably. And that somewhere in Rachel's life, Rachel came out to somebody before she came out to me. And I'm so thankful that person was there to give her the strength to go on.
You're a core memory to someone now. Probably.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Wow, you're gonna make me cry.
And that's what it's all. And just think what you're doing, and giving that strength and that courage to someone to go, this is who I am. I met a young person at one of the Pride events, and they volunteered and went to a couple events with me. And by the third event, we're in the car, and this person says, I believe I'm trans. And everybody's telling me to go to counseling. And I said, no, listen, I don't know anything about it. But the only thing I can tell you is anytime you have a major life event, you should be in counseling. I don't care if it's a death, a divorce, any major life event, you should go to counseling.
Yes.
And I said, and I'm not saying it because I think you're crazy. I think that this is a major life event and you should be in counseling.
And always look for the right counselor, because there are bad ones out there too.
Yes.
There are bad ones out there. So don't ever be afraid to ask any of your local LGBTQ advocates, for advice on who to see. Because I know in Owensboro, I have a list.
Oh, fantastic. She's from my area, so I will follow up with her a little bit later on and see how she's doing and stuff. But yeah, that was the talk that we had. And she goes, people are telling me I'm mentally ill. And I go, no. And she said, I've ignored it since I was 8 years old.
Right.
And I said, I understand. And I said, just go to counseling because this is a big event in your life.
Right. I mean, absolutely. And I'm a huge advocate for counseling. I
am too.
To this day, I see a therapist twice a month.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I could get by without it.
Most of my friends are social workers, and I really like them because I get to talk to them. I'll buy you a pizza. Let's go. But my dad and my mom were old military, and I know after my divorce, I took myself and my children to counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember them saying, well, you don't need counseling. He does. And I go, well, I just need to get on my feet. And they were like, yeah, but they're going to be a record. You'll never own a gun. And they're like, you do not need to be going to counseling. This is not, because, they were from the 40s and 50s and 60s where nut jobs, you're crazy if you go to counseling.
Right.
And it's kind of like getting your oil changed, I think. Don't you?
I often say that I think therapy is like encouraging good hygiene.
Yes. Yeah. Getting the oil change, rotating the tires, blowing out the cobwebs. Yeah. I'm right there with you.
any of that. You know, those are important things. It's just a necessary part of life. To live in the era we live in, I can't imagine what it would be like to honestly say you don't need therapy.
I could not imagine. I really could not. And I tell you what, I was January 18th. It was really cold. It was like 3 degrees. And I had been watching the news and watching, Facebook feed.
It was partially what you said about, only because I want people to know that I wasn't straight. But then some of it was just, I don't know. I think it was maybe a security thing for me. I wanted to feel like I had a rightful place and that I had the right to do that, I think.
Well, that's, everybody's like, oh, we got to create a safe space. And I'm like, people don't understand that there aren't safe. There's literally places where you're not safe. All the time. And I just hit the record button. I found the record button. So the first 7 minutes we were recording. So we'll have to
That's okay. We call it practice.
That's right. We'll hit that again. But anyway, I mean, yeah, people don't understand. And I didn't understand, even with my daughter out, I did not understand until I started witnessing this over and over and over again. The snotty comments. I, as a parent, and I know I've shared this, is that there's a lot of pressure on me to disown my kids.
Definitely.
And, I haven't met a parent when I make that statement, they say, oh, I've never experienced that. They all start going, yeah, there is.
Right.
And then, I was speaking at an event last year and I said, I told them you're going to lose friends. And afterwards, a guy came up to me and he says, the friends I've lost, will they come back? And I said, you don't want them back. You're going to change in such a way. I'm 15 years into this, but you're going to change in such a way that you'll be kind to them, but you guys are on completely different spiritual paths here.
Absolutely. And I also believe that because there is a part of, the younger people right now that are supporting the current administration, the same pressure is coming on them as well to disown their parents, like me, for example.
Yeah. And and I know I have a family member and her daughter came out. So they had separated and then they reconciled, and she had founded a church, she and her husband. So she wrote the minister and said, will you welcome my daughter and her wife? And they just never replied.
I've had that happen too. I know I've mentioned I'm a ministry intern. Mm-hmm. I've been trying to get involved in church since I was a child.
Yeah.
But being an effeminate boy in Kentucky, in late 70s, all through the 80s, anytime I went to a church, they were not accepting. I felt very pushed away. I even had a sermon about me. They were talking about, they'd never said my name, but they referred to me as Johnny Come Lately. I was the only person in the whole church who wasn't a regular there. It was humiliating and it was really ugly. And then about 6 years ago, me and my husband went to a local church. They were having a revival and it was wonderful. There was a wonderful guest preacher there, and he actually made the sermon about us. We were actually homeless at the time. And it was very warm and loving, and they put us in a hotel room, they bought us all kinds of food. They were so good to us. And the next day, the main pastor of the church comes to our door, and he's all smiles, and he's like, we would love, do you plan on keep coming back? And we're like, yeah, we'd love to. He said, okay, but I really want you to know this. If you continue coming to church, your marriage is going to fall apart, because it's what you are is a condemnation. My mouth literally fell open.
Yeah.
Literally fell open. It's hard to find. It can be hard to find welcome or opening and affirming congregations, but I don't want anyone to think they're not out there.
Right.
They definitely are.
What do they need to look for in one of those churches then?
Well, there are Google searches. A lot of times you're going to find churches that will say they're open and affirming, mm-hmm. and they may have the best intentions. I'm not trying to knock anyone down, but they may not have had a lot of experience with members of the LGBTQ community coming actually into their church.
Yeah.
I would always recommend looking for a church that shows possible advancement. Like I was just a member at Unity Fellowship, now I'm ministry intern, so they don't hold that back. One day hopefully I'll be Reverend Chrissy.
Oh, I'll be there. Okay.
Well, thank you. I hope so. I definitely hope so, because this has been this. I never expected, and I'm sorry to stay on church, but I never expected when I started going to Unity that this would be some of the most affirming part of my transition.
Yeah.
But that treatment there, it's been wonderful. I felt like an old church lady. I love it.
Well, and I taught Sunday school at a Methodist church for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it was fine. And then and I got a divorce. And so that was I quit getting uninvited to things, but I could still teach Sunday school. So after about 5 years of that, I went ahead and said, hey, I'm not teaching Sunday school anymore. And I tried to go to like Sunday school for adults and was pretty much tolerated. You know how it is.
Right.
And when my sister died, one person showed up with food.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, I'm done.
Okay.
And I wasn't expecting like a spread or anything, but it would have been nice had one of the women say, what can we do for your family?
Sure.
And I walked away. I started like studying more Buddhism and stuff like that. I believe that there is a God, and I believe he sends messengers to everybody and that they hear his message that way.
I agree.
And that's what, but I'm not going to tell somebody who goes to church that they're wrong. Unless the church is saying you hate people, then it's not a religion at all.
No,
it's my way of thinking. Yeah. And I really believe that God didn't put us on this earth just to sort each other out, because that's their business. That's what they're going to do. We're here to support and love one another.
I really believe that we are all wonderfully and beautifully made in his image.
Absolutely.
And what I am is completely intentional. I'm a part of creation exactly how I am.
I agree. I totally agree with that. I 100% agree with that statement. So, yeah, fantastic.
That's one of the biggest parts of my whole ministry is I want people to feel accepted and know that it's there.
Yeah.
Not to feel like a mistake.
Yeah. Or I was talking to somebody, we were talking about like terms that people use. They think they're being supportive. And one girl says, I hate it when they say I love you anyways. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it never dawned on me. I was at an event and I kind of did a double take and I said, it should be I love you always. And she said, yeah.
Right.
And I looked at her and I go, the one I hate is the first time I told somebody that Rachel had been out, but I was really like my friends knew and nobody else. And then she really got out there, like, I live in Colorado, this is who I am. And she really just came all out, and I was like, okay. And we've got Facebook, so it's not like she can have a life over there and then come home. And, so I was like, Rachel's dating women and Rachel's a lesbian and this is who she is. And, people are like, oh, do you think she did this because she had a bad relationship with somebody in her family? And I was like, this is the way she is. The armchair psychologists were coming out.
I promise you, queer is not a disease.
It is not a disease. It is not a mental disorder. It is by nature and by design.
Exactly.
And she did not want my dad to know. He was an 80-year-old from World War II veteran, type of thing, Army colonel. And she said, if he rejected me, it would break my heart. So I don't want him to know. And it's just generational. It's not a bad thing. It's just generational. I said, okay. So then he made some derogatory comments about gay people. And I thought she was being a little dramatic. And then he made derogatory comments about gay people. And I was like, oh, holy crap, she's right.
Right.
So then one day Rachel called me and she says, and I could tell you've got kids, when they're breathing that they're crying.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I got that phone call and I go, what's the matter? And I'm at work and she says, Junie knows. And that was his nickname, was Junie. She goes, Junie knows. And my whole stomach just flipped. Oh my gosh. And I go, Rachel, are you okay? She goes, yes, he still loves me. And she said, I'm going to let you go. And I go, okay, I'll call you later. So she gets off the phone. Well, then later on, she calls me and basically Dad had called her up and says, hey, kid, did you know that, and he was a college professor on top of everything else he had done. I always laughed that he was Forrest Gump the family because he just did these things and had this amazing life. So he goes, you know, these scientists back in the 70s, they were trying to project what the population growth was going to be. And they were off by 3%, and they couldn't figure it out. And they're doing these math equations. They can't figure it out. And finally, one of them says, well, you know, we've hypothesized that 3% is the gay community. Could that be it? So they put the 3% in for the gay community, and all of a sudden the growth of these little cells was on track. So then instead of figuring out hypothesis population growth, they said their thesis stopped with being a homosexual is in nature and by design. And this was like the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s.
Right.
And so he's telling her this study, and she's crying, and she gets off the phone with him. So then when I get home, he's waiting for me. And he says, and so we go to dinner, he's kind of quiet. So then he goes through the whole thing all over, the same conversation I had with Rachel.
Right.
And I'm about to cry, and I said, hey, you made a kid really happy. She didn't tell you, you know, we weren't keeping a secret from you. She just didn't know if you would accept her. And he goes, oh, and I'll never forget, he goes, I love her always. That was his words. I love her always. And he goes, your kid can't do anything wrong. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, it really turned out well. It could have gone the other way, you know.
It absolutely could have. You know, like I mentioned earlier, that I come from a large family.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure that it's 100% my transition. I made some poor life choices too, you know.
We all have.
Right, we definitely have. But for a long time, I didn't have family support.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think that even at those times, being authentic and living who you really are, whether it's gay, trans, or whatever, it can open new doors. I have an older sister. We honestly never got along that great. We're 18 years apart. We just didn't really know each other. I don't think we were mean to each other. We were just rather indifferent.
Yeah.
After I transitioned, she's like my buddy, you know, and that's different. It's like, I finally know you. This is wonderful.
Oh.
So, I mean, that's the other thing. I want to tell everyone to stay, you know, just give your family time. Sometimes it'll get better.
Yeah. And I've seen and I think when you start to be your true authentic self, number one, you're happier. You're not pretending. The guard comes down to some degree.
Oh, definitely.
And so when you open up like that, I think that because we're as animals, we read a lot of body language and stuff.
Definitely.
And so I think a lot of it is just where you start being that true authentic self. And that's what I tell people all the time. I said, Rachel dated guys, and she would like wait on them hand and foot. And I kept saying, hey, you're getting in bad habits, and I didn't raise you to do this. And she's like, I like it. And I was like, whatever. And so then she came out as bi, and I was like, okay. And then I was like, I think you're gay. And she's like, no, nope. And I said, okay. Well, she went out with a guy, and she called me up. She goes, I'm gay. And I said, great. You know, that's fantastic. She brought a girl home, and there was an ease to her that I had never seen before. And I remember thinking, this is who she truly is. And I had to wait for her to get there. But once I saw her with the young lady, I was like, this is who she is.
Naturally.
Yeah, this is her natural state. And there
Right.
was nothing like, I'm waiting on you hand and foot, and the really loud laughter and forced. And yeah, right. It was a very interesting transition to watch.
That's beautiful.
They all are transitions.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, very much. Yeah. That's really beautiful, Karen. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Thank you. I appreciate everything you're sharing.
Do we need to redo the beginning, the introductions and stuff?
Let's just go ahead. Is there anything else you want to cover or anything you would like to talk about?
I don't know. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I wasn't either, because usually what I'll do is we just start talking about anything and everything. And we'll edit all this out. Thank God for video editing. So let me ask you that. Yeah. I'm learning. I did my first AI chat like little figurine thing yesterday. I was feeling very accomplished. What is it like for you to live in a small town like Owensboro, Kentucky?
Well, I'm an Owensboro native. I was born here.
Mm-hmm.
So this has always been home. I've got a love for it that I can't deny. Do I wish it was a little bit more open? Yeah. But at the same time, I really don't get that many people saying much negative to me. I'll get the occasional snicker or something, but it usually doesn't go any further than that because I always come at them with joy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let anyone upset me.
Yeah.
Most of the time, that's what they want. I really do believe that.
I agree.
Definitely. So it's not so bad for me. It's all about to make it through it. You just have to build your own circle, your own little tribe. And as long as you're careful with, how you're trying to put that together, I think it just makes it easier. And for me, it's been a lot of church and then the support group and different things. So it just makes it easier. I think it's all in your approach. The thing that makes me sad is that so many people in the transgender community isolate. Yeah. I did that for a long time. That's how I know this. They isolate. They're scared. They're afraid people are going to mess with them. That's why I'm so out there right now, because I want them to know it's not always like that. I want to encourage them to be part of it. And I can proudly say that I have helped a few people with being more public, which is kind of amazing. It's one of the proudest parts of my whole life.
Yep.
It really is. And then, I don't know, I entered ministry because I wanted to devote my life to God. But when I did that and I started I became vice president of Owensboro Blue Ridge Pride, a lot of people from all over the state and even some in Indiana will reach out to me on like Facebook, for example, needing help with things. They treat me, and I make a joke because I'm actually disabled. So I'm the world's busiest disabled or busiest unemployed person. But also I think a lot of people view me as a transgender Dear Abby.
Yes.
They call me with their problem, or they text me with their problems. They want help. And I have to tell them, I'm not qualified to help you with a lot of this, or I can't really offer you advice, but I've sort of just been referring them to different people.
Yeah.
For professional.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's been amazing. That all helped. That's how I cope.
Okay. Gotcha. And there's and I know a lot of transgender, they just move like as they transgender and they become this, I don't want to say the new person because that person was always there.
Right.
That's really, if anybody doesn't take anything else away from this episode, is that person was always there. They're visible now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They've accepted who they are.
So instead of new person, say they're authentic person.
They're authentic person. Yeah. Because they were always there. Because I've never met a transgender person that said, oh, I just woke up one day and decided to do this. They were like, at 8 or 9 years old, I wanted this instead. I did not want this.
Oh, yes.
And I get, I feel like I'm that bridge builder and I'm still learning all the time. I mean, I'll probably never quit learning. Probably the day of my funeral, I go, oh, I get that now. But I get, a lot of questions. And so one of the questions is the transgender. And I said, I've met transgender men that until they tell me they're transgender, I have no clue they're not.
Right.
And then a transgender male shared with me, he said at autopsy, a transgender male's brain is the same as a biological man.
I've heard that.
Yeah. And I was like, huh. And I said something because one of my friends was like, well, you're not going to make me, we've had this conversation, participate in your mental illness. So I brought that up. And when I said that, he goes, well, I don't know enough about that to have an opinion. I said, then you shouldn't be saying anything.
Exactly.
Transgender has been around for a long, long time. I mean, I was reading this thing on popes where women were popes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And this whole line and I know out west, there were soldiers in the Civil War that turned out to be women.
Yes, I knew that. I did know that.
Yeah. And then in Roman times and Pharaoh times, there were women or men. Yeah. And I'm like, it is the way it is.
It's definitely nothing new. even in the United States, the first gender affirming surgery was 1917.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
In Germany before, and they were doing a clinic. Have you ever heard about that?
Yes.
And that was fun. He built an entire community and had all, and the studies were lost. They went in and burned it down and
Yeah.
burned books. But then that was like in 1920 through the 30s, the late 1900s or early 1900s into like whenever Hitler got in.
There was a lot of research done. There are only, I can't remember the name of the book right now, but there are only a few existing copies.
Yeah.
And I know there's one in an archive. I've been trying to read it. I haven't got to yet, but I'm excited to.
Yeah.
And I had to find the translation because I can't read German.
I can't either.
So back to what you said just a second ago about a lot of people will just move.
Mm-hmm.
I want to touch on that just a little bit. I think that a lot of trans people, once they're starting to transition, they're starting to feel comfortable in their own skin, which is a really wonderful thing, by the way. They just, part of them wants to go stealth, just live under the radar. This is who I've always been. I get that, in theory, I get that. Because if everybody here in Owensboro knew me better before my transition, I think it would be really weird because the few people that did know me, because I had been shut in for so long, the few people who did know me, it's a little painful when they're like, "Oh, you were so serious before, you were never happy," and they compare me to that person. And it's okay, I don't get upset or anything, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not even that person now.
Yeah.
You feel like that person. So I think that's a lot of what they're doing. They just don't want people comparing the old them to the authentic them.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's why a lot of people do it. I don't want to say I was blessed to be a shut-in, but it was sort of a blessing. When I transitioned, that's when people started noticing me or knowing who I was. So I didn't have to really worry about people talking about that so much. I was, like I said, I was invisible before.
Wow. So as a kid, what were your interests? I know you said you liked dolls and wanted to be Shirley Temple.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was the girliest child ever. I was smart, though. But I was sort of a sick child. I had epilepsy. And so I wasn't allowed to play outside much. So I was always sort of a creative and I was very into art. So I started painting at about 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I painted most of my life. I don't know. I'm not sure what my interests were. I know I liked television. I was a really indoorsy kid.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't the great outdoors because I was allergic to everything. So like I would go outside and run in the woods and come home, my face would puff up, my eyes would swell.
Oh, bless your heart.
Yeah. So I just stayed inside just for the most part, except for winter time. Then I'd get back out. But yeah. So I'm very, yeah, my eyes swelled shut in the 8th grade and yeah, it was horrible. So
all through elementary school, I did read a lot. My mother used to worry her. I remember when I was in 4th grade, I went to the library here. I would spend days at the library. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I found a book. This is not a joke either. When I was in 4th grade, I read a book on Christine Jorgensen. Most of us know who that is. She's one of the first, most, there was a lot of attention on her transition, her surgery. Well, anyway, because before that point, I knew I thought I should be a girl, but I didn't know that any of this was possible. So I read that book, and in 4th grade, I started telling people when I grew up, I was going to move to Copenhagen because that's where she had her surgery.
Yep.
And so that book was actually kind of a lifesaver for me. It's like, that was the first spark of hope.
Gotcha.
Oh, they can fix this. They can fix this. That was really exciting.
Well, and you're not alone.
Right.
You're not the only person that feels this way.
Right.
Yeah.
That was really affirming. That felt really good to know that.
Yeah.
So even after that, I had these ideas, and then eventually I was like, I'll never get to move to Copenhagen. And I never really thought that this would be available to me in my lifetime. I didn't transition until I was 46.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, exactly. And so the fact that all of this has been made available to me, oh my gosh, I can't imagine anything better than this.
Yeah.
This is wonderful.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. What else do you want people to know? Or if you could just tell them something about you that would surprise them.
About me that would surprise them. Well, I don't know. I'm so open about me that I think everybody knows everything about me.
How about somebody, there's a younger person, talk about church. I'm just kind of rambling now, but I can't think of anything else. I think I got shook because I didn't hit the record button. I thought that's this, that's that. So
Yeah, that was unfortunate because I thought the introduction was really great.
yeah. We might have to this may be our practice run.
Okay, that's fine. I'll do this for you anytime.
Fantastic.
I think what you're doing is so important. So important.
We have to have these conversations.
Oh, yeah.
Because if we don't, like I said, 2/3 of Americans are saying, I am perfectly fine with this. I may not understand everything, and that's where I'm at. I don't understand everything. And I always ask people, how's it hurting your rights? How has it violated you?
Right.
And your personal rights? Well, it doesn't. Okay, there you go.
I've lost friends over this. I had a very good friend. She was angry that insurance covered one of my surgeries. Well, both of my surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
She was angry about that. And I kept asking, why would that anger you?
Yeah.
I don't understand. So yeah, it happens. People get so angry. And it's especially when they're in groups. One-on-one, most people are pretty nice to me. There are a few times when you have a group of people that they will act off one another.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had the comment that was made to me because they said something about their kid. And I said, your kid may be part of the LGBTQ plus community.
Right.
And the person said without missing a beat, oh, no, I raised my kid to make better choices than that. And I said, what the F do you think I did? Put my kid in a lesbian boot camp until she conformed?
That was good.
Out of my mouth, and they kind of looked at me. They were a little bit shocked, but I was like, I didn't raise a gay. I just raised a kid.
Right.
I wanted her to be a kid for as long as possible. I didn't want her growing up too fast, and I just wanted her to be happy. Those were my goals.
Right.
Be happy, be smart, be kind. And I don't care those three things in what order it falls. I don't care. That's all I wanted for this kid, for both of my kids. And so I've heard parents say, oh, you've turned your kid gay. It's like, nope, it's nature, And so you're right that people will behave in a way that they wouldn't one-on-one. But I do get comments one-on-one, but it's not done like snotty. And I've had snotty comments. I mean, it's the first reaction like, oh no, I raised my kid better than that. And it's like, oh, well, let me tell you something, and I kind of have to chuckle because I was like, well, just accept your child. Just celebrate who they are. Yeah. Yeah.
Son's comments, I mean, I in no way nurtured any of my children's sexual preference.
Yeah.
That's not something you do as a parent. That part really doesn't have anything to do with parenting.
Not
one bit. That's nothing we ever talked about.
No, we talked about, how to avoid pregnancy, how, you should wait, you don't. And even when Rachel came out, I said, because the first thing, okay, I tell everybody this, I might as well have it on podcast. First thing I thought was, oh, I don't have to worry about getting pregnant. Unexpectedly, it'll be planned if she decides she wants a kid. And when she's ready.
Me and my husband make pregnancy jokes all the time now.
Yep.
And I tell him all the time I'm pregnant. He's like, Chrissy, you're 55 and trans. If you get pregnant, we're going to be millionaires.
We are writing the book and we're going on the circuit.
I would need a ghostwriter too, Karen. So
I'll
just
help
know.
you. We'll work on that together. But I mean, that was like my first go-to. And I was like, oh, I don't have to worry about her getting pregnant. Ha. But it's just who she is. But I had the same talks with my son that I had with my daughter, Mm-hmm. He and a friend were over at the house one time and they made the joke bros before hoes. And he's like in the 6th grade. So of course I'm like, are you guys sexually active? And the head goes on and he came and make eye contact. I mean, he's like let's talk about something else. I said, no, this is the way you're talking. So obviously something's going on. You know, I need to go get you condoms? And this kid came and make eye contact with me. He is just trying to disappear. And I go, I'll go get condoms and we'll get a banana and I'll show you how to put them on, you know. And his friends laughing, my daughter's laughing, and he is trying to get as far away from me as possible. But it's like, you cannot go out and have unprotected sex. I don't want you having sex, but if you're going to, you cannot do this. And he's like, and finally I got out and was like, no, I'm just joking. Shut up, leave me alone. And then he just disappeared for like 3 days, you know. But I had the exact same talks with my kids, you know. I'm not gonna, because I asked him, I said, because I'd already talked to Rachel, so he makes that comment. I said, has your father, and we're divorced, has your father talked to you? He goes, no. And I said, well, then I will. And he's like, no. And I was like, yeah.
Definite mama trauma.
Probably more traumatized by me than my daughter ever was.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, and so I just treated both of my kids as individuals and as fair and equal as possible.
Well, yeah.
You know, and they had the same rules, they had the same curfews, they had everything was very similar, but I just never looked at, and I was raised with the idea you can do anything you want. You know, right. My mom was a stay-at-home. My dad was a military career officer. She was a professional wife, you know. And she dropped out in, I think, the 8th or 9th grade of school. And my dad had a PhD, but she had a lot of common sense and he had none. So they really they respected each other and they balanced each other out. And it was if you put them on paper, you'd say, no way. But they just had this really great dynamic together.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they were amazing. So my dad's like, everything should be an accounting degree. And my mom's like, just get job training. You know, if you want to be a gas station attendant and you want to run a gas station, just go to the school that teaches you how to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so yeah, I had both of those worlds, and I was just raised with whatever you want to, just go make it happen.
That's how it should be.
It should be. It should be. And I know I went out with a guy one time and I beat him in Centipede, and he's like, you beat me. And so then when he played again, he goes, you want to play again? I go, yeah. And he's sticking quarters in, and I beat him like 3 times. Finally, he quit. And I had a big crush on him. And I asked Mom, I got home and I go, I beat this guy 3 times in Centipede. And I'm like 17, 18 years old. And I said, should I let him win? And Mom said, no, honey, you never let them win.
No, absolutely not.
So yeah, that's the way I was raised, and that's the way I raised my kids. You know, if my son wanted to be a chef and bake, go be a chef and bake.
Absolutely.
Or you know, my daughter wanted to be a mechanic, go be a mechanic. Go do what you want to do.
I was never strict about gender roles like that with my kids either.
Yeah.
I know it's a little outdated to say it, but I know at one time I worked in nursing. We talked about that on the phone. I was a med tech, and then I was in nursing school, and I worked primarily with women at that time. I know that's not always the case, but I did. And I remember my son, you know, when he was little, he'd go to work with me sometimes, but I'd go in there for some reason. Why do you work with all girls? And you need to see beyond that. What's that mean? Yeah. And he's grew up to have the bigger mind than I've ever had. He's amazing. He's so open to everything. He's 26 years old now.
Oh,
telling on myself.
Yeah, but when you start when you're 12.
That's true. My oldest is 36 this year.
Oh, well, congratulations. Well, I became a grandma this weekend.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
First time?
First time.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. So Rachel and Bailey don't want children, but Jonathan and Betsy do. And Rachel and Bailey are going to be the cool aunts and do all the fun stuff.
Okay, that'll work.
That's the game plan. Yeah.
Is your son here with you or there with you?
No. Jonathan lives in Bend, Oregon. And then Rachel lives in Castle Rock, Colorado. So I've got some really great places to go.
That's awesome. It just gives you
Yeah.
an excuse to travel.
That's right. That's right. Couple of times a year. And I have discovered, like, I fly out of Indianapolis and then get to Colorado. And like, if I go to Bend, Bend's only a couple hundred out of Colorado to Bend
Right.
round trip. So that's where I go and just kind of jump from plane to plane that way.
Oh,
So
that's terrific.
yeah,
That's terrific. So is it a granddaughter or grandson?
grandson Warren June. So June is after my dad's name.
Okay,
And
I love that.
yeah, his nickname was Junie. And when Jonathan said, it's Warren June, I said, June was his nickname. He said, yes, I'm aware of that. I said, okay, just want to make sure.
Well, that's really cute. I
Thank
have
you.
a 13-year-old granddaughter.
Oh,
Yeah. Her name is Paisley.
oh, I like that, Paisley.
Yeah. But I had 3 boys. Um, Part of my story, my youngest one won't really talk to me anymore.
Uh-huh.
He hasn't for some time. I don't know if this is too much for him or not. And that the reason I even bring that up is because that's something I would like to add if you can figure out a way to edit it in there. That is a reality for a lot of us. It's a terrible reality, and I hate it that it happens to anybody, but it does. So you will get through it. That's a big message I like to spread, because I've had too many people reaching out in desperation and absolute hysterics.
Yeah.
It hurts, and it's okay for it to hurt, but you will get through this. You have to.
If you want to share, has he shared with you what his feelings are, or is he just standoffish?
He pretty much just turned it off one day when he was 14 years old.
Gotcha.
And now he talked to me a couple times, and then he just stops. So I don't know for sure what it is.
Yeah.
I know he is. He really enjoys this administration. Let's just word it that way. He is really happy with this administration.
Yeah, unfortunately, when the ones that are cheering for other people for things to happen to them, and they're going to cheer until it happens to them, because they're just going to systematically go through. Betsy is a first generation Mexican American.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
wait, a picture you posted.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep. And
she's a beautiful girl.
She is. She's gorgeous. She's like 5 foot even. And when I met her, Jonathan's 6'4", and he's a smart ass sometimes, like you'll tell him something and he'll just give you, and he likes to play jokes on you. And so I knew he had, he and I talked one time, and he said something about, he had met this girl and it didn't work out. He goes, I don't know. And I said, well, be honest. You've been raised by a single woman who tells you exactly what she thinks, what she expects. And the women, for the most part, say, oh, I don't care, whatever you want to do. He goes, oh my God, Mom, that drives me insane. And I said, well, you need to find someone who's either been raised by a single woman, or her culture is that she can be a strong woman and still be feminine. I mean, that's what you're going to be looking for. Just make sure she is going to school, have the same drive you do, the talk. So he met Betsy, and she's about 5 foot even. They came home, and I knew when he brought her home that they were pretty serious. And he popped off to her, and she turned around and said, I tell you what, and I was like, that's exactly what he needs.
Good deal.
That's exactly what he needs, because he'll, and we don't mean to. We're just, strong personalities have a tendency to take over, run over people, and like, let's all do this together. And this is the way we're going to go. And this is the best way to do it. And that's not always really good in relationships,
Right.
And so I knew when he wasn't being mean or anything. He just, did his normal Jonathan stuff. And she just put him right in his place. And I was like, that's the one right there.
Mama enjoyed that a little bit too much.
I did. I was like taking notes.
I could see it in your eyes.
Yep. Well, when you find your kids, when they look at someone and they're happy, they smile, and you see that joy in their eyes. I was talking to a trans man a couple weeks ago, and I said, about 4th grade, both of my kids lost that authentic smile. And I go, and I saw it when Rachel met Bailey, and I saw it when Jonathan hiked the Pacific Crest Trail for 5 months, had a blast. I saw that smile in those photos, and then I saw it when he brought Betsy home.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and when I was talking to this person, they said, "Oh yeah, that's about the right age that you lose it." And I go, "Yeah, because you're told you're too loud, you're too this, you're too that. You need to be more like so and so." Or you watch people that you think everybody likes, so you're trying to mimic who they are.
Right.
So more people like you, or some. We all go through it, you know.
Or you're told you're too girly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's similar to that too. So yeah, I'd say that's right, about the right age.
Yeah.
4th grade is when I started changing, I think.
And the bullying starts nonstop at that age. You know, Rachel was bullied from 4th grade all the way to when she finally graduated high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I finally looked at her. I came home one day and she's sitting on the couch crying. She's like, so-and-so doesn't like me, blah, 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 you know. And finally I said, and I was dealing with a boss that was bullying me, you know. And so I said, just deal with it. You have to live with these people. They don't grow up. They stay this way the rest of their lives. This is who they are. And this is how they're going to behave. And you will work with them. You will come across them in the supermarket. They walk among us and they breed. So learn to deal with it.
Exactly.
And so she went to her room, and then she came out a little while ago and she says, "Oh, I need the air horn for school. I'm doing a demonstration speech." I said, "Great." So I give her the air horn off the boat, you know, here you go. So the next day I get a call from the principal, and the bully who'd been bothering her every day for 4 years gets in her face and starts her stuff. And Rachel literally took the air horn, put it in her face, and blew it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so he says, you know, I said, "Well, good for her." And he goes, "Well, you know, we might have to expel her." I said, "If you expel her, you're going to have a lawsuit on your hands, because this girl has been relentless in bullying. She didn't lay a finger on her." I think it's genius.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Really
get the air horn.
We need to pass those out at Pride events.
Yes. So are you looking forward to Pride this year in Owensboro?
I'm really excited. I don't know how familiar you are with Owensboro, but we had 2 different Pride organizations. We had Owensboro Blue Bridge Pride, which is part of the church that I'm ministry intern.
Okay.
It was originally. And it was basically just a yearly picnic. That's appreciated. They stepped up when no one else was there to do it. But then we also had something called Prism Arts Alliance. And we just merged in December.
Okay.
So now we're just Owensboro Blue Bridge Pride. We're growing. We have a full board now. We're trying to create year-round, events and different things.
Yeah.
And so I think that Owensboro, for the first time, has the opportunity to have a voice. The LGBTQ community has a chance to be heard.
Yes.
And so I'm really proud to be a part of that. I am excited. Last year, Pride happened, I think it was 2 weeks after I'd had my bottom surgery.
Oh, wow.
And I started last year, right before Pride, I started at my church, Unity Fellowship. We started Unity Fellowship's Gender Affirming Name Change Clinic to help people with the name change process. I believe we helped 4 people last year change their names. We funded it. I went with them to change them. That was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So I came for the Pride picnic, but I had to sit down the entire time because I couldn't do much walking and I couldn't go in the heat. So this year I get to be a part of the whole celebration. So yeah, I'm real excited.
Oh, good.
I know that during Pride Month that my church, Unity, was very, very interested in having you come speak.
Yes. And I am ready, and you let me know when, and I will come as many times as you want me there.
Well, we would absolutely love that. I've been given the total clearance on that. Is it, Chrissy? Make it happen.
It's happened. Okay, just count on it, and let's just finalize that down the road, now or later on. So
that's fine.
I'm excited because every time I speak, and now I've been speaking. I wrote the book in 2022, so it's been out. And I think so my daughter, you haven't gotten a copy yet. I'm going to get you one.
Okay.
I sent the transcripts. It's 100 pages. It's a super easy read. I write the way I talk. So it is what it is. But I sent the transcripts to my son and my daughter and said, if this is a no for either one of you, then that's okay. This is just something I want to do. And so Jonathan said, oh, this is really good. And then Rachel came back with, yes, it's a yes, but I'm going to illustrate it. And I said, no, let's not illustrate it because, that's not what I gave it to you for. And she's already a published illustrator. She doesn't need my book.
Right.
And she said, no, she says, the kids are going to need pictures. I said, I'm writing the book for the parents, not the kids. She goes, oh, I know. She goes, but it's going to be the kids that buy the book first and give it to the parents. I was like, whatever. So I agreed. She sat on it for a year. She finished the pictures up. And she was right. That's what it needed. And the first group I talked to were some young children, not young children, but some 15 to 20-year-olds,
Right.
And so I brought books for everybody as a gift. And one kid opens up the book and goes, oh my God, I've got pictures.
I didn't realize it was illustrated. That makes it like a project between the two of you. That's wonderful.
It really is. And I'm hoping as I get the stories on the second book that, you already know about, she is going to try and illustrate that as well. So we have that continuity there.
I like that.
So not every chapter gets illustrated, but enough would get illustrated. And if she can't do it, then I'll find another illustrator who could possibly join. But she has tentatively agreed to it so far.
Awesome.
So yeah. So, and I just think that coming out and us sharing this information, I know we've already said this before, but it is just, I cannot stress the importance of us having these discussions.
Oh no, I would do this daily if need be.
Yeah, I would too. And I try to on some level,
Right.
But I was going to try and get with some friends and say, okay, if you could be in front of a trans person, what questions would you have for them? So that we could have those. And nobody got back with me. I was like, come on, guys.
So you should ask AI.
Yeah, AI, yeah. But what's the number one question you get asked the most?
Okay, honestly, I get asked the most. Well, the obvious, before my transition, how do you have sex? Which,
really?
Yeah, that's, people are pretty tacky. And I can't say it's much better now. I mean, but people are pretty respectful at the same time. But if they're friends, they think they have that extra in, I guess. So they'll ask me direct questions about my business.
Yeah.
And that's really awkward for me. But
yeah,
I try to have grace about it. I don't get mad,
Yeah.
I used to be like that, hot-headed and stuff. But no, I'm just like, well, that's none of your business. I'll just try to dismiss it pretty quick. That, and then people ask me, on a little bit cleaner level, just ask me about my general happiness. People are really interested in me and my husband. How did y'all meet? What's y'all's story? My husband is 19 years younger than me.
Oh, good.
No, I'm a Mrs. Robinson.
Oh, Mrs. Robinson. I like that.
It was an accident. I'm this year I'm 55 and he's 36. The heart wants what the heart wants, I guess. But I don't know. He gives me so much inspiration and I help him. I think we just have a beautiful thing.
I think when the energy between two people is right, that the age is not, I do believe, I just think that when you have energy and it's the right kind of energy between two people, it just is a good mix.
Absolutely. And it was like that with us. He had never been in a real relationship with a trans person before me. He would just, like a boy, come sniffing around, just wanting to check out but I stood up for who I am, I was like, just go. After that, he never left. It's built on, there's a lot of God in our relationship, and it's built on respect. It's a real relationship, and I don't think a lot of people believe that.
Yeah.
I think some people are like, really? I mean, that's it. So yeah, it's really good.
yeah, that is what, when I talk to people, they just have this really skewed thought process of what a relationship between either same sex or, a trans and, whatever. They don't get that it's the same struggles that they have.
Exactly. There's no difference at all.
No, and they seem to think, because my daughter, they kind of hit this bumpy road in their relationship. And I said, well, once the honeymoon's over, sex is like 5% of the relationship.
Right.
And she goes, she was so tired. She goes, if that much. And I did a double. And I was like, that is a conversation I've had with my girlfriends,
Right.
Yeah. And then I tell people all the time, you go to these pride events and you see two men or two women genuinely holding hands and enjoying each other's company, and they feel so incredibly safe there. I said, it breaks your heart that only happens once a year.
It really does.
Yeah. And I go, I've seen, and you can tell when somebody looks at each other, how they feel about each other.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you see these people looking at each other, everybody wants somebody to look at them like that.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I can't stop smiling when you said that.
Yeah.
I just thought about the way he looks at me.
Yeah. And so if people would get beyond the sex and just look at people where they're at, and if they're in a loving, supportive relationship, that's all that matters.
Exactly. My life, I'm very much just a normal housewife.
Mm-hmm.
People don't seem to want to understand that. I have a dear friend. He makes a joke all the time that people think that we just run around in our pasties and building pride floats all year round. And it's not like that.
Well, and two, I met a guy, and this is in my book, but he said, because Pride was starting to hit the news, like the New York City Pride or the San Francisco Pride.
Right.
And I was like, oh, are you, Evansville didn't have their first Pride until 2019.
Right.
So this was like 2009. And so I said something, and he was very out there, he made no bones about who he was. And we were taking night classes together. And I said something about San Francisco Pride. He goes, I hate Pride. I go, why? And he said, just hear me out. And I was like, okay. He goes, if you don't know anything about who I am or my friends, and all you see is what's on the news of men in leather assless chaps or fairy wings roller skating around in a parade with dildos, and I'm like, yeah. And you would think, what? That's what they think we do. And I was like, oh yeah. And he goes, that would be like me deciding that the heterosexuals all behave the way they do at Mardi Gras.
Exactly.
And I was like, and that was like getting hit right in the middle of my forehead. And I was like, oh, holy cow, he's right.
I love that. I've never thought about it like that.
Yeah. And he goes, it would be like the world, the gays deciding what heterosexuals were based off of what they saw at Mardi Gras.
Okay.
And he goes, and that's not who they are. It's just a party.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that is so true, but
where I go with my whole trans joy thing. That's I'm trying to spread that year round. That way it's not just a pride thing.
Yes, exactly. And that's, the podcast goes like 9 to 10 months, depending on if everybody gets tired of hearing me talk. But yeah, so that's why I've got that, and I've got other things going on just to keep it going and have that conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
It is important. I mean, it's the only way. I don't want to say normal. It's already normal. We just need to like I was talking to my cousin. I said, if two girls hold hands, we just accept that that's who they're in love with.
Right.
Or, you see a girl holding a hand with a girl, and then down the road, she's holding a hand with a boy. So what? So what? It's her business.
That's exactly right. And I do feel like on some level we're headed that way, and then it feels like we revert a little bit. But that's why I just try to encourage everyone to be as visible as you're comfortable with.
Yes.
I know not everybody can do it, so I often will tell people I'm visible for those of you who can't be.
Yeah, and I get like that when I started speaking, I would have literally, and to me, anybody under the age of 60 is a kid, you know, and I would have a kid sitting in the front seat crying or in the front row crying, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not that bad of a speaker. And the first time it happened, it really threw me off because she's all balled up, she's got her hoodie pulled down and doing this number, and I stopped. I was like, "Are you okay?" And she said, "I wish my mom was where you're at." And so I always tell people I'm 15 years into this.
Right.
If you had told me 15 years ago, I'd write a book, I'd do a podcast, I'd be outspoken, I would go and talk as an advocate, as an ally, I would say, no, I'm not. Maybe I might fly to San Francisco where nobody's ever going to see me.
Right.
You know, but I never would have dreamed I would have done all of this ever.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Exactly. I never expected to do it. I'm not that I'm doing that much, but I mean, for me, I'm doing a lot.
You're doing a whole lot. You're doing a whole lot, and you got more to do.
Definitely. I'm not going to slow down.
I'm not either. You know,
I spoke in front of 600 people at the No Kings rally this year. Or last year, excuse me.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember not being able to speak in front of 10 people before. I don't know where that came from.
Well, and you left the house.
Yeah, I did. People were, I got some applause and stuff. That was really nice. A little embarrassing, but nice.
Oh, it's very nice. Yeah, yeah.
So I definitely have, aspirations to be more of an advocate out loud. So I'm going to keep working on it. That's why I'm going to take part in things like this. Anytime you need me, I'm here.
Okay, I'll probably bring you on more than once, and especially once I get a lot of this stuff figured out.
Sure. No, I get it. And maybe I'll write a better introduction of myself.